everybody. We are here with Dr. Will Nghiem, Horizon Fibroids, 3 locations in Maryland. Dr. Will has been a friend of the show, has been on the show many times over the years, and deals with something that so many of us have, fibroids. Dr. Will, we're thrilled that you're here. We put up a Q&A recently for Sarah Fraser Show listeners to ask you about their fibroids. So we're going to get right into it because this is an AMA for Dr. Will. Wanted to start with our first listener. She says that she's been diagnosed with 2 fibroids that are 3 inches in size and needs a hysterectomy, but has DVT in a leg. Thoughts?
Okay. Yeah. So DVT, for listeners out there, DVT means deep vein thrombosis. So it's like blood clots in your legs.
Okay.
Just because she has 3 fibroids, 2 fibroids are 3 inches, it doesn't mean you have to have a hysterectomy. A lot of patients, when they hear they have fibroids, and their doctor may kind of let them know, oh, this is your best option, the hysterectomy. There are actually non-surgical options for fibroids, such as uterine fibroid embolization, which I do. As for, if you have a DVT, increases your risk of potential complications, because hysterectomy is a bigger procedure with anesthesia. It just may make your recovery more high risk. You may develop more DVTs because of the, positioning and everything like that. Most likely she's on blood thinners for her DVT.
Okay.
So with the blood thinners, they have to work around that. So, there are other options besides hysterectomy.
That's the thing about you, Dr. Will. Everybody listening, and many of you have already made appointments or seen if Dr. Will is the right fit for you, is you are an alternative. Like lots of times we listen to our OBGYNs, we love them, but your OBGYN won't always give you all the different options, which is you at Horizon Fibroids, because you are a non-surgical option for women. You've been doing it for years and years. And your uterine fibroid embolization is over 2 decades old, right? This procedure. I mean, it's very safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's done like low downtime. Don't you go in through someone's wrist? It's like very, very low, impact, correct?
I mean, it's been around. We've been performing it for 20 or 30 years. It's FDA approved. It's part of the standard of care, but unfortunately, a lot of women are not told about it. It's an outpatient procedure we do. Takes a few hours through a 2-millimeter incision in either the wrist or the groin, without general anesthesia. So generally it's safer, it's lower risk. Patients return to work or normal activity a lot quicker. Like a standard hysterectomy, patients are out at least 6 to 8 weeks, versus with UFI, most patients are normal activity in 5 to 7 days. So a lot of my patients are working women with small kids at home or other responsibilities, who don't have the ability or don't have that time to be down.
The thing about you as well is you all accept almost all insurance. You guys can make appointments at horizonfibroids.com, but definitely go and check. It is so worth getting a second opinion from Dr. Will. That leads me to the next question, because people wanted to know, what is considered a large fibroid? So our listener that has 2 3-inch fibroids, are those big? Is that considered large?
I would say it's a good size, medium size fibroid. So that's probably the size of, like a pear. But, I've had patients fibroids as large as like 20, 26 inch centimeters, which is like a volleyball or a large cantaloupe. And,
wow,
it's interesting because, some OB-GYNs, when they talk about fibroids and your uterus size, they say like, compared to, weeks pregnancy, right? But when I like evaluate fibroids and compare size, I like to use fruit. So, you have a fibroid size of like a pear, an orange,
a grapefruit, it's always the size of a grapefruit, right? Not always, but
yeah. But interesting though, like the size doesn't quite as matter as the actual symptoms. I have patients with small fibroids just cause a ton of symptoms, versus patients with large fibroids who don't know about for many years and then discover it later on.
okay, well, that leads us to another question that a listener had. Alyssa said, like, how do you even know that you have fibroids? She's like, sometimes I think I do because I have like heavy periods that last longer than 7 days. But she said she wanted to know, like, how do you even know? Can just a regular pap smear tell you that you have fibroids? How would someone even realize that?
I mean, a pap smear is not going to tell you have fibroids. It's just them, doing the test on your cervix. The fibroids themselves are actually inside your uterus. So a lot of times whoever's doing the women's health, if they're doing a pelvic exam, may notice that your uterus feels lumpy, larger than normal, that may be signs you have fibroids, but definitely clinical signs of, heavy bleeding, prolonged bleeding, heavy cramping, feel a lot of fullness, bloating. Those may be signs that you have fibroids. And typically, besides the exam, screening with just an ultrasound will let you know if something's going on. But otherwise, if no one's doing that, then you would never know.
Got it. I mean, so there is a potential you could have fibroids that are just not impacting you, that are there. You might not even know until you have a sonogram or you go to get pregnant or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, most women potentially get a fibroid. Like up to 80% of women by age 50 may develop a fibroid, but a lot of women live with their fibroids, but only a smaller percent, about 15-20% of those patients will develop symptoms that affect their life, that they get evaluated and then they find the fibroids, and then something has to be done potentially. So millions of women are living with fibroids out there, but it's important that the women who are suffering from the fibroids that learn about all their options.
Absolutely. Are fibroids hereditary?
Yes, there's a very strong genetic component of fibroids. Women whose family, like mothers or family members, have fibroids are 3 times increased risk of developing fibroids from themselves.
Okay. All right. So that was a big one from a listener. Okay. Talk to me about, the biggest thing I always hear from women is fibroids and fertility. I have a girlfriend that, she's still trying to have a baby in her 40s. She's addressed her fibroids. She's been going through IVF. But can you tell us, do fibroids lead to infertility, and do they impact IVF outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, fibroids can cause a more hostile environment for women for their fertility. There are women who have normal pregnancies and everything with fibroids, but as they get larger, multiple fibroids, it may be a cause of the fertility issues. And at that point, after trying different things, then the consideration of getting something done to those fibroids to hopefully improve the fertility outcome.
We're all about wellness here on TSFS. We love to stay healthy. You're a very healthy doctor. But people want to know if there are foods that you should eat that will help your fibroids, or food that you should avoid. And I do hear this one a lot in my DMs, various teas that people drink that will help their fibroids. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely food can affect your fibroids and the development or growth of them. Specifically because fibroids are very responsive to hormones like estrogen. So things that we tell patients to try to avoid are like red meats, processed meats like bacon. Also anything that's, like I said, with hormones involved, like some milks have hormones in it, soy milk. But good things that people can take are actually like green tea. There are special little things in green tea that help with fibroids. And end of the day, it's actually like kind of diet and exercise. You can actually kind of Google like fibroid diets, and a lot of times I feel like a lot of it's very similar to kind of like a Mediterranean diet, but less processed foods, less sugars. Also that helps maintain your weight, because as you gain weight, the fat cells in your body actually release little bits of estrogen. So the more overweight you may be, it may increase your growth of your fibroids or developing fibroids.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. I didn't realize that diet impacted it so much, and that green tea was helpful. The other question a listener had was, will fibroid treatment help me lose weight? I've been bloated on and off for years dealing with fibroids. So if I had uterine fibroid embolization, would that actually help me lose weight?
Yeah. I mean, besides the actual fibroids shrinking, getting smaller, losing some mass from that, but actually a big problem with fibroids that a lot of women experience from their heavy bleeding is anemia. Anemia is where you have heavy bleeding over time and your blood levels get low. And when women are anemic, you get fatigued, you get tired. A lot of my patients say that, you just don't have the energy to do things like go work out, do certain things. You're less active, and they start gaining weight. So we can treat your fibroids, normalize your periods, get your energy levels up, your blood levels up. My patients are telling me like 3 to 6 months after they're going to the gym more, they're losing more weight. So it's all kind of a big cycle. It kind of snowballs if things are out of control. But once you kind of get them under control, like the fibroids, then other parts like your blood levels, then your energy levels, and your life feels better. Your quality of life is better. And, end of the day, that's what we want to do.
That's terrific. Can fibroids turn into cancer? This is one I actually hadn't heard. I hadn't had anyone message me this before. I guess I never even thought about it. Can they turn into cancer?
So cancerous fibroids are extremely rare.
Okay.
I quote all my patients that, the FDA says potentially 1 in 350 women, one cell may be precancerous or cancerous. From the gynecology literature, it's much more rare, like closer to like 1 in 1,000. So it's extremely rare for fibroid cancer. But that's something that we alert our patients about when they consider their different options versus surgical versus non-surgical.
Final question. A lot of women have fibroids to the extreme that you've seen. Of course, you see everybody, all different various,
Mhm.
stages of fibroids, but some women, it's so extreme. They are getting iron transfusions monthly or blood transfusions. I mean, if a woman is listening to this, or she has a girlfriend, she her aunt, her mother is going through that. I mean, they should call you ASAP, right? I mean, there's really, you need to see somebody because that's very extreme, but it does happen.
Yeah, it's actually I've seen an uptake in patients who come see me and who tell me they're not just on iron supplements with the pills. They're actually on iron infusions. They've had multiple iron infusions because they're having bleeding, and it's just a lot of times they may be offered a surgery like hysterectomy, and they're not ready for something so invasive, and they're not told about the non-invasive options that they live with their symptoms and fibroids for many years. And because of the heavy bleeding, then they become anemic, the iron deficient anemia, and then they're getting those iron infusions and everything. So, I mean, getting iron infusions is not something that you should be doing regularly, and if we can fix the problem, I mean, that's the more ideal outcome.
Absolutely. Horizonfibroids.com is the website. Like I mentioned, you accept almost all insurance. If people have questions, they can call. You have 3 locations in Maryland. People see you all across, all around the DMV. So if you're from Virginia, you certainly can go and see him, the district as well. This is so informative. Is there anything else you want women to know about fibroids, that you would love to get out there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is just education about being your own health advocate. We've talked about this before, where women have their OB-GYNs for many, many years, and you trust them, you listen to them, but sometimes if you may need get a second opinion, because if your only option is surgery, if surgery is your only option, a lot of women may defer treatment and just deal with their symptoms. So on horizonfibroids.com, we have a lot of information about fibroids, about what I do, uterine fibroembolization. But also, if you come see me, it's all about education for me. I want to make sure that you, as a patient, have heard all your different options. And at the end of the day, if you have surgery or you have embolization, at least you've heard it and you can make the best choice for yourself.
And before you have a hysterectomy, come see you. I mean, it is worth that consultation, because like our first question that, our listener had about, having DVT, needing a hysterectomy, I can't tell you how many women, and I know a radio co-host had a full hysterectomy, and then years later she found out she might not need to have done that. And then if you do want to have a child later in life,
Sure.
you've already had this hysterectomy. So that to me is always the scariest one, is like, don't have a hysterectomy till you see you, and really make sure that that is the final option.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy statistic, there is a hysterectomy in this country every 3 to 5 minutes. And a good number of that is for fibroids. And likely a number of those surgeries are unnecessary.
Oh God, don't even say it. I mean, you could be like me. Here I am, 42, trying to have another damn kid. I mean, at least everything's intact.
Right. You still have the option.
I got to get some good eggs, but at least have the option. You want women to have that choice if they want to. Dr. Will, we appreciate you so much. Dr. Will Nghiem at Horizon Fibroids. Make your appointment today, horizonfibroids.com. Thank you, Dr. Will.
All right, thank you.